Hey, what's up guys? I'm Stefan from Folding on Belly. Some of you may know me as Bubbles. And for those of you who are watching, thank you so much. This is our first official video. For those of you who know me, you know that I love food, and wings are very high up on that list. So we thought we'd try something fun. We're both huge fans of Hot Ones from First Week Feast. And if you're not familiar with them, I definitely recommend you go check out their channel. They have awesome content. So we wanted to try something a bit similar with our own unique twist on it. Today, we're going to be tasting wings with 7 unique hot sauces. Most of them are actually local from here around the area in Cagayan de Oro and in the Philippines in general, with a few international outliers just for fun. While I'm going through these, we're going to be talking about some of my experiences here in the Philippines over the last year and a half. Some of the ups and the downs, some of the cool things about the culture, and some of the things you should be looking for when you come to visit. All right, let's do it. So the first sauce we're going to try is the generic style brand that you'll find here in the Philippines. The company is known as UFC, not the fight organization, but this is just the most typical hot sauce, kind of like Tabasco, if you will, in the Philippines, that you'll find in supermarkets or in exotic stores. It's fairly mild, from my understanding, so we're going to go ahead and give this a try. So you can see, you know I'm not cheating. Just a little bit of a kick. It's more sweet than anything. If you can imagine mixing Tabasco with ketchup, it's a little bit like that. A couple misconceptions that people have about the Philippines. I think people tend to look at it and just associate it with things like Manny Pacquiao, who's obviously an awesome ambassador. It's really a lot more than that. They have a very rich agricultural industry, and anybody will tell you that the fruit here is delicious. There's so many different types of cuisine here for you to enjoy, which I'm going to get into later. But also it's incredibly diverse in that you'll find over 7,000 islands here. A lot of really low-key areas that are great spots that I don't think general tourists will think to look at. It's something you really have to ask the locals here about in order to find. It's an incredibly family-based culture, and it's something that I think is not seen as much in a lot of the Western world, in that family is really number one, and each unit takes a lot of pride in and of themselves. Being together, celebrating holidays together. If you've ever been to a Filipino party, you know that they can go for hours on end, and probably more relatives than you can even remember showing. So it's really wonderful, and there's a lot of things beyond what we see on the news that are really inspiring for coming here and enjoying the culture. Definitely not too challenging. I think people who are against spice in general probably won't enjoy it, but yeah, it's a nice sweet sauce with a very, very mild kick. The next sauce on our list is Sabrosa Hot Sauce from Buldak in Luzon. It's the northern region of the country. I don't know as much about this sauce. I know the flavor is described as mango habanero, and since it's a local-based sauce, I figured we should give it a try and add it. So let's see how it is. Definitely have to include that. It's the coolest opening ever. This one definitely has more of a kick. The mango flavor is very present. It actually almost has this kind of carbonated texture. It almost tastes like if you were to create some kind of soda salsa hybrid. The sauce isn't too thick, so if you're a fan of a little bit of a thinner sauce that kind of just complements what you're eating, then this might be a good choice. So one cool thing about languages in the Philippines is there's so many of them, and I think the one that people most generally associate with the country is Tagalog. It is recognized as the national language of the country, and it's the most widely spoken if you go up north to Luzon. However, if you travel south and you go to the regions of the country that are closer to the equator, like the island of Mindanao, you'll find a language called Bisaya, which is one that I'm a bit more familiar with. And there's countless more I can go over. There's one that's really interesting called Tropiquantes, which is actually derived more directly from Spanish. So it's actually something that I can speak comfortably with natives in the areas where they speak the language, places like Zamboanga, where I can converse with a local because my Spanish is so directly understood because of the similarity to the language. But it's really fascinating to see how not only people from these different regions speak differently, but also how those cultures are shaped as a result of the history of the areas, and tying that in with language is really cool. So anyone who's looking for a diverse experience when they travel, I definitely recommend that you stop in several different regions within the country, because you're going to find that the languages are incredibly diverse, and while there's a ton of crossover, you also get to find something unique each place that you go. It's a good sauce, a little more watery than I would prefer, but decent flavor. The mango comes through. Not overly spicy, not a problem. Next on our list is a brand that I'm a huge fan of. It's Tropiquantes, described as being the first of its kind here in Cagayan de Oro in the Philippines. They take a lot of pride in making fermented hot sauces of all different flavors. This one, number 3 on our list, is Mango Habanero. They've rated it as being 3 out of 4 chili peppers on their levels of spiciness. So we're going to put that to the test and see what we think. This one's definitely a little bit thicker than Sabrosa. It also has that kind of carbonated effect. So we're going to find out how it stacks up and how this mango habanero goes up against the previous one. Immediately, I can taste more of a kick with this sauce. It's a little bit thicker, so it coats the entire wing a little bit more nicely, to my liking. Again, the mango flavor is very present here, so it lives up to its name for sure. Spicier, which is as I expected, which is why we put it higher on the list, but quality sauce. One of the most common questions I get from people who haven't traveled to the Philippines is, what's the deal with balut? Balut is a fertilized egg that's been cooked up to the point where it's edible, but the fetus of the bird is still present in the egg. So when you crack open the shell and you open it up, you can actually see a tiny little bird, which I think is what turns most people off the thought of this little baby that you're about to eat, this little baby bird. What you're missing out on is this incredible tender flavor. It's very juicy. And there's actually 2 ways that it can be cooked. Some people prefer it to be fertilized to 14 days. Some people prefer it at 18 days. I prefer the former because it's a bit more tender, a little bit juicier. It's also common around here to pour vinegar over top of the balut once you've opened it. So you crack the shell, and you pour in the vinegar, and then you suck out the juice and the vinegar altogether before you go ahead and eat the rest of the egg. But it's definitely something I recommend trying. And if it helps, try it with your eyes closed. If you don't like looking your meal right in the face, try it with your eyes closed and just try to savor every bit of the flavor and the good taste. And I think that your experience will be a lot different than what you might expect in many cases. And if it's not for you, it's cool. But if it turns out that you enjoy it, pleasant surprise. Good heat, it sustains its spiciness over time. Not overwhelming again, but decent flavor. The mango habanero, it's not bad. Next up in our lineup is my favorite from the Tropiquantes brand. Being Colombian and a huge lover of Latin cuisine, I can tell you, having tasted numerous salsas from many different places, this is by far the most authentic tasting salsa verde that I've had in the Philippines, and it's one that I definitely recommend you try if you get the chance. I don't know if you can tell, but the bottle's almost empty because of how much I enjoy this. Right away, it reminds me of eating at a high-quality Mexican restaurant. With every bite, I can appreciate how carefully they've fermented the sauce and how carefully they've combined all the ingredients. It's worth finishing every bite of whatever you put on it, so I can't recommend this salsa enough. There's a couple subjects that I think a lot of people tend to have misconceptions about regarding the Philippines. One of those is English. You'll find that almost everyone here has at least a general familiarity with the language. Part of that is because it's actually required to be taught and learned in school. So apart from speaking their own native languages, whether it's Tagalog or Bisaya or Chilocano, most people here also speak English, if not fluently, then at a fairly high level. So for tourism, this is a great thing. It makes it easier to get around, easier to find things to do, easier to find good places to eat. So communication is definitely not as big a problem here as people might expect. Another thing that I think might get overlooked is traveling here, especially by road, especially if you're traveling in one of the larger, more urban areas like Manila or inner city Cagayan de Oro. Traffic is very dense. The good news is that drivers here tend to be a little bit more experienced, and that while that might seem erratic to some people, it also means that they're more comfortable navigating in a smaller space at maybe a higher rate of speed. And especially if you have a motorcycle, that makes it much easier to get around here. It's also something you have to be aware of in terms of safety. I've been told that there's no such thing as a one-way street here, and it's kind of true. So definitely be safe when you're on the road and be prepared for traffic, but also be prepared for people to take plenty of shortcuts. And one more thing that I think people might not expect when they're talking about the Philippines is the genuine polite attitude that you find when dealing with the customer service here. Here in the Philippines, it seems like a point of pride to treat everybody with warmth and the utmost respect when interfacing with them in business. So you're going to find people that are very polite. At restaurants, they're always going to repeat their order back to you to make sure that everything is confirmed exactly right. When you're making change, they're going to speak the exact numbers to you to make sure that all the calculations are being done correctly. And typically, you're going to find everybody treating you with a smile. So overall, a more positive experience than you might expect when traveling to a foreign country. Nice kick, pleasantly spicy, not overwhelming at all, and tons of flavor to match it. The Salsa Verde from Tropiquantes, I can't recommend it enough. Go find some. Also, you'll notice that we're more than halfway through the list of hot sauces, and I haven't touched the water or the milk. That might change on these last three spicy sauces, so stay tuned. At number 5 on our list is Samyang's Buldak chicken sauce, made most famous in Korea for being used for the fire noodle challenge, kind of similar to what you might expect from a hot wing challenge in the US or Europe. The sauce became so popular that now it's sold in stores, and it's become a favorite of people from around the area. So we're going to go ahead and try it and see if I can live up to the fire chicken challenge today. It even looks hot. Even when it hits the wing, it looks hot. From my experience eating hot wings, this one has a type of flavor that isn't especially hot up front, but in about 15 or 20 seconds I'm going to start feeling the heat, and you might see me reach for that glass of water. It tastes really good. It's a very full flavor, and it gets really hot as soon as you swallow it. So not too hot on your lips or your tongue, but my throat is on fire right now. Tastes great, but I'm on fire. There's no better time than when these sauces are starting to test me a little bit than to talk about one of the issues that we're all dealing with right now. And that's COVID-19. The whole world's dealing with it, and the Philippines is no exception. A lot of people are probably aware that here in Asia, diseases like this are treated with a different type of respect, in that people start wearing masks as soon as they expect that they might have symptoms of anything, whether it be a cold or the flu. People were wearing masks even before this turned out to be a global pandemic. They're still wearing masks now, and in fact, in most places, it's a requirement that for you to enter a public building like a mall or a grocery store, you not only have to wear a mask, but a plastic face shield. Can't encourage everyone enough. Please stay safe. I've definitely been affected by this in that the lockdowns here in the Philippines actually left me stranded for 3 months in Luzon, even though I live in Mindanao. It took over 3 months for me to get back to where I'm actually staying here. And that's nothing compared to the challenges that some people have had with this illness. People have had their lives affected greatly physically. They've lost loved ones. Do what you can to combat the spread. And let's all try to meet in the middle. Don't be too harsh to one side. There are people who are eager to get back to a somewhat normal everyday life, and there are some people that just want to wipe this out as soon as possible by whatever means necessary. So let's remember that we're all dealing with this together and try to find the most reasonable and practical ways to fight this. Everybody stay healthy, and let's wipe this thing out. So now a little bit of this is on my lips, and yes, it's kind of hot, but I really have to give it credit. The flavor is fantastic. So it makes the entire slightly painful process of eating it all worth it. I'd like to put this in my ramen. Yeah, go out and try this if you can find it. It's delicious. Number 6 for us and number 3 out of our Tropiquantes lineup is their classic sauce. This is the most traditional tasting sauce out of their lineup. It's considered to have their highest heat level, 4 out of 4 chili peppers. We're gonna see if it lives up to that lofty challenge and whether or not I finally have to drink some water once I taste this. And I can see the seeds in the sauce, and they're taunting me. So I have to answer. This one's fairly spicy all the way through. It has a nice flavor because, from what I'm told, they are very good about their distribution of vinegar. It really helps the acidity of the sauce, and it matches up well with the overall flavor. So I would recommend this to people who are already fans of hot sauce, maybe not necessarily looking for the hottest challenge, but definitely want a little bit of the picante flavor in their life and want to still enjoy the food in comfort. I don't have too much of a problem with this, but remember guys, I have a kind of a high spice tolerance, so eat with caution, but I think this one is one that a lot of people can enjoy. Since we're eating chicken, it makes perfect sense for us to talk a little bit about food in the Philippines. I happen to love almost everything that I eat here. My top 3, if I really have to pick them out, sisig, it comes from pork mask from the face of the pig. It's fried and it comes out on a sizzling plate. It's kind of like shredded meat, so you can eat it with a spoon. You might put sauce on it, you might eat it with rice. Here in the Philippines, everything comes with rice. Very delicious. Also a huge fan of lechon kawali. It's essentially fried pork, so think of chicharron with a little bit of a meatier substance at the middle. Comes out, has a nice crunch, but it's also juicy and very moist and tasty on the inside. Very, very good. Also, as we talked about earlier, balut, very tender, very full flavor. Close your eyes, give it a try. I think more people will enjoy it than they really are expecting to. And another thing that's interesting, if you come to the Philippines, be aware, yes, lechon does refer to roasted pig, but if you see something on a menu called lechon manok, be aware that you're going to get chicken. Manok is the word for chicken, and they're essentially referring to a whole roasted chicken. Also great, also tastes delicious. I eat it all the time, it's fantastic, but if you're looking for pig, definitely be prepared for something a little different if you order lechon manok off the menu. Good sauce, definitely worth finishing the entire way. And just like all the food that you can find in the Philippines, absolutely worth a try. End of the road. And there's only one sauce I can think of to end a hot wing lineup. Guys, you're probably about to see me reach for the milk and the water because we're finishing this off with the bomb beyond insanity. You guys who have seen hot ones, you know what I'm about to go through. Unfortunately, I know what I'm about to go through, so I hope you guys enjoy because I probably won't. You can see how thick it is, so you know how painful it's going to be. In the Philippines, people might say hala or grabe. So I'll say both. It's been fun, guys. Salud. Man, okay. One more bite. Okay. So, while we're enjoying ourselves, what are some fun things to do in the Philippines? Well, you can't beat island hopping, because there's a ton of beautiful islands here with lots of things to enjoy. One of my favorites is Siargao. It's a beautiful island that has the best to offer from both natural beauty to a little bit of a more developed region. If you go down south to Luna, just hop on a scooter and you can see, beautiful hidden caves, perfect blue beaches with nice white sand, and a warm culture life with tons of music. And you'll get different variations of that on different islands you go to, whether it's Cebu, Palawan, anywhere. Can't recommend it enough. Water. Do not touch your eyes, whatever you do. Can't tell you. Ah, this hurts. Oh man. Okay. Number 2, martial arts. As with anywhere, martial arts is very cultural here. There's a ton of great opportunities for training. As you can tell from my shirt, one of my favorites has been training at Team Lakay up in Baguio. Team Lakay is one of the most intense places I've trained at, but also the most professional and most welcoming. I had the opportunity to train at the gym where you'll find guys like Edward Foliang and Honorio Banario, who I actually got to spar with a bit. Very nice guy, very tough, but he and all his teammates gave me a great experience. Martial arts here is wonderful. Team Lakay has been by far the best experience we've had hopping from gym to gym. So definitely, if you're into martial arts or just looking for something new, give it a try. And 3rd, enjoy getting together with family and friends. If you've ever been to a party here in the Philippines, you'll know very quickly that everybody is pretty much treated like family, and it's considered a rite of passage to get together with all your titos and titas, or your kuyas and ates, and just enjoy sitting together, talking, laughing, drinking beer. San Miguel is the favorite locally, and of course, what good is a party without karaoke? So be prepared to shout out a few high notes, even if you're not the best singer. It's all love, it's all fun, and that's part of the beauty of the Filipino culture, is how much everyone just enjoys being together and being happy. Probably much happier than I am right now, having to push this down. This is very painful, as I'm sure you can tell. Final rating on the bomb, terrible out of 10 would probably be my rating. Very difficult, and there is some essence of flavor, there's some citrusy flavor, but it's not good. It's pretty much just there to challenge yourself and put yourself to the test as far as how much you can tolerate as far as spice goes. That's pretty close for me. Not afraid to admit, that's a challenge. Hit the water, didn't have to touch the milk though. Didn't touch the milk. And we made it. Got through all 7 sauces. As you can tell, I cleaned the bone for the bomb. And we have a full pile of everything we finished up to this point. That was a bit of an ordeal at the end, but definitely worth it to get to sample all these great flavors. And again, most of them are all local from here in the Philippines, so all highly recommended for you to try and get a little bit of a sample of what it tastes like here in Cagayan de Oro and the rest of this awesome country. Guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I definitely had fun. Definitely a little bit of pain there at the end, but overall a cool experience eating these wings, always good sauces, and talking to you for a bit. If you want to hear more about insights for daily life, martial arts, recipes, or find out more about my personal experience being locked down here in the Philippines during COVID-19, be sure to check out foldmeonbelly.com to find out all about our new content and see what's going on day to day. Thanks so much, guys. I can't wait to see you next time. Take care.